Good morning. Good morning. Morning, everybody. You guys know how this works. Trying to get everything live here. Man, I got to do a much better job on Instagram. I got a lot of work to do on Instagram. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Thursday, February 27th. Lot going on. Lot going on today. Lot going on in today's show. I got a lot to get into. Lakers taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Got some stuff with Anthony Davis. Okay, let me hold up here for a quick second. I don't want to just start giving everyone a preview of the show. Just a quick shout out here real quick. Thank you for being a part of the show this morning. Thank you for hanging out consistently. Yesterday was episode number 100. We're past that now. We're 101 now. Please subscribe to the channel if you guys have yet to subscribe to the channel. So thank you for hanging out. Every morning we got a quote. Every morning we got a quote that hopefully is a helpful quote to those that are sitting here and hanging out. And if you have a quote that you want to share within the community, then go ahead and put it out there, and I'll definitely read it. If it's a bad quote, I'll just pretend like it doesn't exist. If it's a good quote, I'll highlight it like it was my idea. All right. So we'll go from there. I got actually a couple here. There were a couple good ones this morning. If you can't fail, you can never get better. That's a really good quote right there. If you can't fail, you can never get better. You know, everybody just wants to succeed in life. All right. Well, you got to take some L's along the way. You got to take L's. If you can't fail, you can never get better. Phenomenal quote right there. We got a packed show today. It's a packed show. And this has kind of been the nature of the show. We start at 8 a.m. and it just kind of goes until it goes. We'll see how long we go today. We'll spend a little time talking about a quick rundown of the show. Lakers obviously taking on, they're hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is if I'm right here, it's a 6-game homestand that the Lakers have. The first game was against the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, they played on Tuesday. They still got Minnesota, Clippers tomorrow, Clippers on Sunday, Pelicans on Tuesday, and then the Knicks a week from today on Thursday. So Lakers got a lot of home cooking here. Some really good matchups. Tonight, they go up against Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll preview that game a little bit. Talk a little bit about that. AD not buying the story from the front office. One of my good buddies, Brad Turner, who I used to always have on the radio when I was on 710 and a lot of the pregame shows, BT would come on. He had a nice conversation with Anthony Davis. Some interesting quotes there from AD, and we'll get into that. AD not buying the story of the Lakers front office. Jeanie Buss was talking about Bron's future. She was on the Rich Eisen show. I want to spend a little bit of time on LeBron. You know, I think we got a completely different version of LeBron. I think a lot of people out there, whatever your view of Bron was before, did any of it change? Did some of it change now that Luka's on this team? For me, it's changing. It's a process that's definitely changing. So we'll get into that a little bit. Got some NBA news. Kind of some interesting stories that I was reading last night. Paul George pausing his podcast because the Philadelphia 76ers are awful. KD expected to be traded in the offseason. What teams will go after Kevin Durant? NFL overtime rules may change. We're going to do that as well. And then at 8:30, a good friend of mine who I've known here for a number of years does the play-by-play for the Minnesota Timberwolves. His name's Alan Horton. Good dude. You guys are going to like this guy. He'll be very insightful. He's going to come on at 8:30. We'll talk a little bit about this game tonight. Plus, I got some questions for him. You know, if you guys remember last year, it was the Timberwolves versus the Mavs in the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, Luka had one of those series. We'll talk a little Luka with him as well, get his thoughts on where the Lakers are sitting as well. All right, that's a rundown of the show. I think that's it. I think I'm done. You guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully that was good enough. Like and subscribe and have a great day. All right, let's take a look here. take a look at some of the comments here before we get started. Look, this is what I'm looking for, guys. This is what I want. I want people to contribute to the damn show. I was doing a post game a couple days ago, and I forgot who it was, but somebody told me during the chat. I'm like, hey, if an interview starts and I don't know because I'm doing the show, give me a heads up on the chat. And some guy was like, hey, Luka's talking. So I shut the hell up and I went to Luka. I had people helping me on the show. I asked for some good quotes. I got a good quote here. It's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. It's a badass quote. If you got some good quotes, what are you holding on to them for? Share. I don't know why my voice got high. Jesus Slee, what the hell? Being on time is being late. There was a story that I was told one time. This doesn't apply to me, by the way, but I'm going to pretend like it does. Story one time. There was this CEO, this Fortune, CEO of a Fortune 500 company, whatever, a big time company. And he walks into a meeting, and it's your, regular meeting that you have, and you got this huge table that's there for the conference that they're about to have. You got all the employees in there, and he doesn't sit at the head of the table. And somebody tells him, they're like, hey, you're the leader of this company. You're the CEO. You should be sitting at the head of the table. And he says, wherever I sit is the head of the table. It's kind of like one of the most baller things I've ever heard. It's like, no, not because I sit there, I'm the CEO and I'm the leader of the squad. I can sit whatever the hell I want. And wherever I sit, that's where the leader, or that's where the head of the table is. So I think, Jesus, what I'm trying to tell you is whenever the hell I come on, that's when the show starts. Okay? 7:59, 8:01. When I'm here, it's time. All right, let's get the show started. All right, Lakers and the Wolves. So, you guys tell me if you guys agree with this. You guys like that story? All right, that's good. It's the most baller story I've ever heard. Somebody just, I love that story. It's like wherever the hell I sit, that's the head of the table. Let's get the show started. Lakers host the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. I mentioned this a little bit yesterday. I do feel like we're starting to get to a point of Lakers basketball where the Luka stuff is starting to wear off a little bit, right? Like there is no more, you could kind of watch games now and they're a little bit more associated with the basketball portion. There were a lot of storylines, especially in the last game as well. You got the Dallas Mavericks. I think, he plays his old team, Luka. I think the storyline of Lakers and Denver, a lot of storylines there as well. There have been a lot of storylines since Luka became a Laker. I feel like tonight is officially, we're starting to get to the whole, okay, now it's just another basketball game. And that's a good thing. I mean, for a team that's playing as good as the Lakers are, I think, you certainly want to see a little bit of that. Lakers are trying to go 15 games over 500. That's what they got going tonight. Taking on a Minnesota Timberwolves team. I mean, if you're just looking at the standings here real quick. By the way, Houston won yesterday, so the Lakers technically in the number 5 spot. If they were to win tonight, then they'll move back up to number 4. But there's a few teams right in the mix. You got Memphis, Denver, Houston, and the Lakers all within 2 games of each other. So I think now, as much as we've been talking about the Luka stuff, now we're going to get into a mode where we could just start talking about basketball again. Minnesota, 32-27 on the season. They're a little bit all over the place. And to be honest with you, I'm not going to talk too much about them. I'd rather wait till we have Alan Horton on and he could tell us a little bit about them. But something to keep in mind. Sammy Long did a preview video last night. He posted it. I encourage you guys to go watch it if you just want kind of like in-depth about this matchup. Rudy Gobert, I know, is out. Anthony Edwards, I know, is questionable. Julius Randle, I know, is out. Dante DiVincenzo, I know, is questionable. So they're not going to have their full squad. So fully expect the Lakers to take advantage of that. Minnesota, a little up and down. The last game they played was that unbelievable comeback that they had against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So that's kind of interesting. I don't really know what to make of the Timberwolves, to be honest with you. I don't think they're a real threat. I thought it was idiotic of them to trade Karl Anthony Towns last year, or in the offseason. But again, for the Lakers, what is this game? It's another game to try to take advantage of the home cooking, to try to take advantage of a team that's not 100% healthy. It's to try to go 15 games over 500 and to keep building on these building blocks that you've had. This will be they're 15-4 in their last 19 games. I believe that's the best record in the NBA in the last 20, or in the last 19 games. This will be their 20th game, so a chance to obviously run their record to 16-4. Let's see if the Lakers can keep balling. I mean, I think, what's happened over the course of these last, call it 40 days, 45 days, the perception of Lakers basketball has changed a lot. I've been listening to a lot of Lakers content outside of, what I'm doing. I like getting other opinions. I like looking at other people out there that are not associated with the Lakers and hearing what they got to say. A lot of people are really up on this Lakers team. A lot. So this is going to be a good test for the Lakers to continue to try to build on it. And like I said, here's what you're going to get from Minnesota. They're going to play tough. They're going to play hard. You got a player in Anthony Edwards that if he plays, I think he'll play. If he plays, he'd go off for 40 in any game. So how do the Lakers, really play to this? Less storylines than some of the other storylines. Are they still up for this game? How much of this is just, hey, roll up our sleeves and go to work? This is part of the grind. You got another game coming up tomorrow against the Clippers. Plus, you can kind of, I think what's interesting about these next 3 games for me, you got a chance to really separate yourself from those 6 through 10 seeds out there. Lakers have 21 losses right now. If they just split with the Clippers, you're still got a 5-game advantage in the loss column, and then I think they win the tiebreaker as well. If you beat the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight, you have a 7-game advantage in the loss column. Minnesota ain't passing you. So I think what you're really kind of establishing over these next few days, you got a real chance to kind of make sure that you establish you're not going to be a part of the play-in tournament. And probably at worst, you're going to be a top 5 seed in the Western Conference. So that's kind of what's at stake in these next few games, and certainly this game against the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. Okay, I want to move on here, and I want to get to a story that I actually read this morning, and I'm gonna share my screen with you guys because I think there's enough here, and the quotes are long enough, and it's about Anthony Davis that we can kind of read along this together. I mentioned Brad Turner of the LA Times. So BT, who does a phenomenal job. I'm working on trying to get BT on next week. I want to get him on Monday, so we'll keep you guys posted on that. But I'd love to have BT a part of the show so we can talk a little bit about the 2 Lakers-Clippers games that we're going to get over the weekend. BT got a chance to talk to Anthony Davis, and I'm going to read some of the quotes. So obviously, so much of the storyline. Here's the reality of Anthony Davis's world. AD's world is as simple as this. He was a Laker for 6 years. He helped them win an NBA championship. He's one of the best two-way players in the league. I think Laker fans, a lot of roller coasters with AD, frustration at times of his performance, frustration at times for his lack of availability, and then praising him a ton as well, because he'd also show you 3 out of 4 nights, 4 out of 5 nights. Yeah, I'm one of the best players in the world. So Anthony Davis's history with the Lakers, I don't think anybody's going to feel bitter about it. AD never wanted out of LA. He just, was caught in a predicament where the Lakers were clearly making a business decision that was going to help them today, but more importantly, was going to help them for the future. But not everybody really talked about Anthony Davis. All the chatter everywhere was about Luka. How does Luka feel? I can't believe Luka got traded. Luka looks shell-shocked. How's Luka going to perform against this team, that team, whatever the case is? Not really much has been talked about with Anthony Davis. Now, maybe part of that also has to do with the fact that, unfortunately for AD, when the trade happened, he was injured. Then he plays a little bit over a half, gets injured again. So we also haven't got a chance to watch Anthony Davis. So maybe it has a little bit to do with that, but I think it just has more to do with the bigger name was Luka, which says a lot about, obviously the star power that Luka has and the shock factor of Dallas trading Luka. Let me read you guys some quotes here from the interview. Okay. I'm not going to get in. I mean, he talks a little bit about it was emotional for him as far as the tribute video. Okay. Leave that at that. Here's where I want to get into. Here's what he says. He said, they wanted who they wanted. They did what they had to do. I don't know if they had to, but it's what they wanted to do. I moved on. I got a wife and kids to worry about. And I'm figuring out how I'm going to get them to Dallas and get adjusted to that. It's over with, and I'm moving on with my new team and what we got going on. Okay? When it happened, I honestly didn't know shit. He's been my running mate for 6 years. He's talking about Karl and Lebron. So the first thing I wanted to do was call him. Obviously, I know there's going to be a lot of political things in the front office when they talk to me. The front office has to do what it has to do. And obviously, they're going to do what's best for the organization. So I don't know if I ever got the real about any of it. I don't know what's true or what's not coming from upstairs. So my thing is I'm going to go to my counterpart who I've been running with and see what's going on, get his reaction. And that's all it was. We had a conversation. That was it. Everybody's saying nobody knew and all that other shit. I just don't believe it. But hey, man, I'm past that. I'm ready to move forward with Dallas, try to get a championship with these guys. First off, getting back on the floor, getting ready to compete, all the emotions last night when it was just a shock. Okay, so what's Anthony Davis saying? I think Anthony Davis, the front office has to do what it has to do. Obviously, they're going to do what's best for the organization. So I don't know if I ever got the real about any of it. Okay, I think that's a good place to stop right there. And listen, I'm trying to have some consideration for Anthony Davis in this process as well, which it's been tough to do. I mean, I've also been sold on the, yeah, no, I get it. I understand. Yeah. Anthony Davis got a family and everything as well. But not really many people are talking about, and we all know this, not many people are really talking about the Anthony Davis portion of this. A lot of conversations have been about Luka. I don't know if Anthony Davis understands it. Or I'm sorry. I don't know if Anthony Davis is maybe buying the story that the Lakers are trying to sell him. Hey, we never wanted to shop you. That was never the consideration. This was something that the Dallas Mavericks approached on us. You were never available. We would never consider trading you. None of that stuff. I don't know if he buys any of that stuff, but I hope Anthony Davis just understands it. He doesn't have to buy it, but he should understand it. There's a reason why everyone was so shocked Luka was available. There's a reason why everyone was so confused that the Dallas Mavericks didn't at least all right. What do we got here? Still here? Everybody got me? I feel like my video went off there for a second. There's a reason why everybody, I think if you kind of look at this and you pay attention, there's a reason why the shock factor really didn't include AD's name a ton. But I think AD's got to at least understand they had a chance at Luka. Anthony Davis didn't get traded for nothing. I mean, Anthony Davis, I think we all know the value Anthony Davis has in the league. I don't think he needs to feel as if he got done dirty, even though he probably does. He probably says to himself, I won an NBA championship with this franchise. I thought they were going to hand me the keys to this franchise. Maybe Anthony Davis feels like in his mind and in the back of his head, he feels like, how can you consider trading me? But I hope he understands it. And you know what? The thing that I actually like about this article more than anything else, um, the thing I like about this article more than anything else, I do like that we finally got to see his perspective, because we really haven't got to see his perspective. I want to see his perspective. I'm going to play you guys one piece of sound here that I think a good piece of sound. I think it actually explains a lot as well. Jeanie was on with Rich Eisen on the Rich Eisen show. And I'm going to play this, and I think she makes a very, very good point of why this was kept in such secret. So let me just play this for you guys here so you guys have an idea from Jeannie's perspective.
In your world.
The conversation started a couple weeks before the trade was executed. And what was really important was Rob Pelinka, the general manager, and I, we did not want any part of it to leak out, because it's very disruptive to a team that's trying to focus on getting better.
We'll pause right here for a quick second. Imagine for a quick second, this comes out and it's public, and the Lakers end up not making a trade for Luka Doncic. The deal falls through, and everybody knows that Anthony Davis was about to get traded and didn't get traded. Just keep that in mind.
We have a rookie coach in JJ Redick, and the idea of blowing something up mid-season to make a trade like that, if it didn't go through, would have repercussions. So it was really, tight-lipped, and each step of the way was discussed, and we were able to make a deal that both sides were comfortable with.
Well,
I'm gonna stop it right there. I think that tells the story that I'm trying to share with you guys. That at the end of the day, I get why it was so important for the Lakers and Dallas to not let any of this leak. Right? I completely understand, because the way I look at it is, just imagine for a quick second here. Imagine that the Lakers. Again, I think this is the most important thing to point out here. Imagine if the Lakers tried to trade Anthony Davis behind everybody's back, and then it didn't happen. It just very simply put, just everybody knows that the trade was supposed to happen, and it didn't happen. How does AD feel in that locker room? Do you now have to wait and get to the summer and probably start shopping Anthony Davis? Does Anthony Davis reach a point where he says, you know what, guys, I can't believe I almost got traded. You know what? Maybe my time is here done. Maybe my time is done here as well. And now the player that the Lakers were supposed to kind of build around once LeBron is gone, now all of a sudden you could lose AD. LeBron could be retiring, whatever the case is. The situation was very, very it was very discreet for a reason. Let's put it that way. It was very, very discreet for a reason. So it's the first time that I really got a chance to see that perspective, which was Anthony Davis's side of the story. And I get what he's saying, that, maybe he doesn't fully trust what the story that he's been told. But I hope that he at least understands he got traded for one of the best players in the world who's 25 years old. It's kind of a no-brainer from every front office that's out there. Now, whether you want to say, well, what's Luka going to be in 5 years? Is he going to take care of his conditioning? Is hookah and beer and drinking and all that stuff, is that part a real problem for Luka? Is he going to clean up his act once he comes to LA? We'll have to wait and see. But I also understand where Jeannie's coming from. It's like, no one could know about this. No one could find out about this, because the ripple effect it could have had on the Lakers, it could have had a real ripple effect for the Lakers moving forward. Okay, I do want to spend some time here looking at some of the comments here. So if you got some thoughts, some comments, feel free to throw them in, and I'll try to get to them right now. Let me see here. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. AD lacked charisma. Am I having some issues here when I look at the comments? Am I being lost when I highlight a comment here? I don't know what's going on. Hopefully not. You guys can tell me. When I show a comment, am I off the picture when I show a comment? All right, I think I am, but we'll keep looking here. We'll keep looking here. It would have completely ruined the locker room chemistry and momentum if it got out there. Yeah, that's weird. All right, so it looks like when I'm highlighting comments, for some reason, some of this is taking me off the screen. Let's see if I do it this way. Still doing it. The hell is going on here? All right, maybe I'm not going to be able to highlight the comments, but I'll read the comments. It's a business deal. With it, you're making a ton of money, so your feelings are hurt, and who cares? All right, let's get a couple more in here. Slee, Brian Windhorst said on his broadcast, Frank Vogel is advising Dallas Mavericks. Did you know that? Maybe he's behind AD Luka trade. Remember, Dallas general manager said defense wins championship. I mean, I don't really, for me, it doesn't really matter. By the way, I'm just not going to highlight the comments. So just a heads up. I'm not going to highlight them, but I will read them. I don't think Frank Vogel is all of a sudden having this crazy impact on I don't think Frank Vogel is having this crazy impact on the Lakers, or I'm sorry, on the Dallas Mavericks, and has that type of pull. So I'm not too worried about that. I don't think that's happening. I'll tell you that right now. All right, let me get some more comments here. So I'm just going to have to work around this, but definitely dealing with, as I highlight some of these comments, it's not happening. JF, it's a business deal. It's a business deal with it. I don't think people, by the way, should be churning on Anthony Davis all of a sudden. I think the man has every right to give his opinion. And I think him giving his thoughts and his opinion of course, a trade that shocked everybody. He should have his own opinion, of course. I don't think anybody's questioning that. All right, let's see what else we got here. He's implying that, of course, Bron knew, but Bron wouldn't be honest with him. That's from Chuck Nola. Yeah, that's the only part when he said that he talked to the front office and then he was like, all right, well, let me call LeBron to try to get behind the scenes on it. That was the one part that I thought, okay, well, maybe that's what he's referring to. Maybe what he's referring to is the Bron piece of it. But again, I think at the end of the day, he doesn't have to understand it, or he doesn't have to accept it, but he should understand why it happened. Okay, let me, I want to bring on our guest, and I want to make sure that this works properly because I'm having some, there it is, Alan Horton.
What's up, Alan?
Horton, what's up, brother?
How you doing?
I'm good, man.
I'm a little close. I'll back off a little bit.
There you go. No, you're good. You're good.
Match up same head size. That's the key part of it. You gotta. I can't be up like this and be done.
You're a pro. Yeah. You're a pro. Sometimes I have them. When I get a guest, we'll be so off on where we are. But Horton, you're a vet's vet. Okay, I'm going to try this here real quick. Let's see if that. Okay, no, hey, it didn't kill us.
Whoa.
Right. Well, no, here's what's happening. It's not even the graphics. For some reason, when I started highlighting listener comments, which I've never had this happen before, I go away. So I think that might be that might be the stream that's basically saying like we've had enough of Al, and I'm talking about Sliwa, not Horton. Okay, so for those who don't know, Alan Horton is the play-by-play on radio for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Horton and I have known each other for a long time. Used to work with each other actually down in San Diego. Horton, how long you been doing Timberwolves radio now?
18 years.
18 years?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It's been that long since 2007.
Oh, my gosh. All right, better weather, Minnesota or San Diego?
Oh, come on. Come on. Not unless you enjoy frozen tundra, deep snow, ice cold temperatures below 20 below. It was 20 below just a couple of weeks ago.
You used to always tell me, I remember when we were in San Diego, you used to always say, because we'd walk outside and it'd be just, 75, and you'd always say, I'd rather be in Minnesota. You used to always tell me that. And you used to walk around. and you used to walk around with a shovel for some reason. I'm like, what are you doing? And you're like, well, I'm going to be shoveling snow here pretty soon.
Preparing. I moved on to snowblowers. I find that's much more effective these days. Easier on the back. So it's I've graduated towards snowblowers now.
All right, we're going to get into Lakers and the Timberwolves, but before we do, so a couple times I'll go up to the mountains, Lake Arrowhead, like hour and a half, 2 hours away, whatever it is here in SoCal, get some snow up there. Horton, if it just like snows maybe an inch, I don't know. My mind doesn't know how to process anything. I'm like, okay, so does that mean we're snowed in? Does that mean do you just eat what you have and boil water? Because like I go into survival mode. I have no idea what's going on.
No, this is like that's like what happens in the South, like when it happened in New Orleans earlier this season when the Bucks got stuck down there playing the Pelicans and the snowstorm and ice storm hit and everybody was just you didn't even leave your apartment, your house, wherever you were. You just you were locked in. You're right. You're eating all your own stuff. No, that's a Tuesday. We don't actually. Minnesota hasn't gotten a ton of snow. I felt like heavier snowfalls were maybe like 10 years ago. So we don't get a ton of snow. I mean, there was like maybe a foot when I left, and now it's all melted because it's already 60 degrees there. But the temperatures are cold, and there's nothing quite like coming off a team flight at about 2:30, 3 in the morning, walking out of the tarmac, and you're just the wind is howling, there's snow blowing around, the temperature is probably 15 to 20 below, and you're just like, where am I? What am I on a planet? Do we land on the moon possibly? Because you just look around. Of course, a tarmac, you don't see anything. It's just it's like a mile of just vastness. But it's a lot of teams have to go through that. It's not like it's just unique to Minnesota. It's cold in Chicago. It's cold in Milwaukee, in Detroit, in New York, in Boston, Toronto. So it's not unique just to the Timberwolves, but it's nice coming to springtime. It's nice coming out west for a road trip.
Yeah, I a couple years ago I was back in Minnesota. I went to a Lakers-Wolves game. But it was, I think weather-wise, it was like March, so the weather was actually really nice and everything else. But okay, let me can I go back here real quick? I want to go back to I think you can help shed some light a little bit on Luka getting a chance last year to watch him in the Western Conference Finals. You're calling all the games. It's the Timberwolves. It's the Dallas Mavericks. I got a lot of questions about the Timberwolves. I got some questions about, obviously, tonight's game. But can you do me a favor and just kind of take us back to – because what I'm trying to do is this is so new to everybody, seeing Luka in a Laker jersey.
Yeah.
And I know we've got to see Luka now for a number of years. Last year's the first year he gets to the NBA Finals, and he's got to go through the Minnesota Timberwolves to get there. Take us back to that series and specifically just the Luka portion of it. What was Luka in the playoffs that you got to see in that 6-game set, and what made him so special?
Yeah, it was 5 games, and it's 5 games because he was so dominant. He controlled the entire series. I mean, it was a dominant performance. The Wolves have been playing really well, and they, beating Denver in 7 games, sweeping Kevin Durant and the Suns. They came in with confidence, but Luka came right in. The Wolves had home court advantage too, and Luka came right in game 1 and set the tone. He controls the game. He dominates the game, and there are not a lot of guys in this league that can do that on a nightly basis in a postseason, carry you to where he carried the Mavericks last season. So he had his shot going, he had his passing going, and when he does that and he's in control of the game like that, Alan, I honestly don't know what you do against him because of his size, because of his passing ability, because of his shooting ability. When he's locked in like that, it makes it awfully difficult to win a series. It's hard to beat him 4 times, him and his team. And of course, he got really good help around him. Kyrie had a great series too, and some role players stepped up around him, Lively and Gafford inside and PJ Washington outside. But it was all keyed by Luka Doncic. And that's what the Lakers are getting. They're getting someone that can absolutely carry a team. So you're going to have him for the next 5 years, right? When he signs a max. Well, I guess the Lakers can only probably offer him 4 years. Yeah. but you're going to have him for 4 years. And, I know Nico Harrison and the Mavericks are betting against Luka Doncic. I mean, at his age and the way he plays and when he is healthy, I'm betting on him. I would bet on him. And I don't know exactly why Nico Harrison, just is so strong in his belief that he doesn't want to be tied to Luka for the Supermax for 5 more years. It's not like the guy's 30 or 32 and you're on his last contract and you might not get much out of him last couple of years. He still hasn't even reached his prime, or he's in his prime, you could argue. Even if you signed him and you weren't pleased, I think still you're out of there in 5 years and you're still in his prime. I just know that when he's healthy, he's one of the best players in the planet. That's why I'm not. If I was the Mavericks, I'm not trading him. But
yeah, I think that's, and the reason why I asked the question is because how much can Lakers have holes on their roster? I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Now, they've also been playing phenomenal basketball. They're on a stretch where they're 15-4 in their last 19 games. One team that they've had an incredible amount of trouble with, which is the Denver Nuggets over these last few years. They go to Denver and beat them 123-100. Great game, and Luka's phenomenal. I guess that's my point, is how much do you think, even though it's a flawed roster, and even though you don't have the rim protectors that that Dallas had in that series against Minnesota, is it just as simple as this, that you get in the playoffs, you're a top 4, top 5 seed, which is probably where the Lakers are heading, probably in somewhere that direction. You got LeBron and Luka in a 7-game set. You know basketball better than anybody else. Just how dangerous is saying, wait a minute, you got 2 of the highest IQ players, guys that could do this. It's kind of funny. I think Luka now is going to offer something to LeBron that he hasn't had in a really long time, which is, so I don't have to control the entire game. No. Actually, Luka can do that. But how dangerous does that become? Or is it, no, you know what? Give me a month to see what this team looks like before anything else happens.
Probably a little bit of both. But I think you're right. Like when you have 2 talents like LeBron and Luka, and they're just not scorers. They can do it all. You're right. You mentioned the high IQ, and they can pass. They can set up teammates. They know the nuances of the game, things that don't show up in the box score, who to get touches, when, what matchups to take advantage of, all those things. And those become crucial in the postseason, because that's what series are about. It's about matchups, about seeing that same team 5 to 7 times in a series and being able to execute. And both these guys execute at a really high level. So I would like to see a little bit more. The 15-4 is nice, but that's only a portion with Luka. They probably still have some things to iron out. Doesn't mean it's going to be smooth the entire way either. There'll probably be some bumps in there. Maybe a couple of head-scratching losses. That seems to happen to everybody in the league. But I think, it's not a perfect roster around them, but boy, they can cover up an awful lot of holes. Maybe you don't have the aerial passing of a Lively and Gafford for Luka, but those kind of guys make it work no matter who they've got around them. So, can they get to the NBA Finals? That's probably a little bit of a stretch. I'd like to see more before you probably think that they can get that far, but it's certainly off to a good start. And then with the IQ of those 2 guys, I think you're in really good shape, and they can solve some problems that maybe the roster doesn't have. They can make up for in other ways. So it's certainly off to a good start. And like I said, I think there might be some bumps along the way, but we'll see, because there's still another month or 6 weeks of the season, whatever it is that's left.
What do you make it? Just give me your thoughts. Lakers got Timberwolves tonight. Obviously, for somebody who's there for every single Minnesota Timberwolves game, what do you make of their season so far? What should we be expecting tonight? I know not fully healthy, but what have the Timberwolves been?
A roller coaster. They've been an absolute roller coaster. They started the year winning 6 of 9, then they lose 7 of 9. Then they win 6 out of 7, and then they lose 7 out of 10. And they win 10 out of 14. And, if they don't come up with this miraculous comeback against Oklahoma City on Monday night, they would have dropped, it would have been 4 or 5 losses in 6 games. And their defense has not looked sharp since the All-Star break. It's only 3 games, but actually 4 games, but they're giving up around 120 points a game. That's not the identity of this team. They have to be led by their defense. That's what that was what the key was last year in getting to 56 wins, is having the number 1 ranked defense. And while they're not there, they're still 6th best, but they're starting to fall the wrong direction. And you mentioned the Lakers 15-4, number 1 defense during that stretch.
I know.
Really impressive. And of course, the offense is top 10 as well. And that's interesting too, because I looked up that the Lakers haven't had a top 10 offense since the 12-13 season. That's incredible. I mean, you have to go all the way back to Kobe. That's not even Kobe's final year, second year. I think it's his 3rd to last year. But so the Lakers are playing really good basketball. Timberwolves are coming off that incredible 25-point comeback against OKC. I didn't know that game-saving blocks were a thing in the NBA until last year when Anthony Edwards did it in Indiana, had the great highlight. And then he blocked Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at the rim with 10 seconds to go in overtime to save that comeback. He has not shot the ball well recently, so that's going to be interesting to see tonight. Defenses are just absolutely swarming him. He is seeing 2 and 3 defenders almost on a daily possession coming up the floor. He's still, this Wolves offense is still kind of struggling to figure that out. And how do you play off a double? How do you make a defense pay when they're doubling your best player? And we've seen late in games that teams are willing to let a guy like Jaden McDaniels shoot corner threes and live with that rather than Anthony Edwards creating. But overall, Ant has taken another step in his career. In his 5th year, he's now up there amongst the league leaders in scores. He's in the top 5 in points per game. But the consistency and maybe the efficiency still has a little ways to go. Turnovers have been up as he sees more pressure, decision-making, those type of things. So all in all, I think it's poised for a great matchup because Anthony Edwards, as the best player on the team, the Wolves go as he goes, and he gets really up for these big spotlight games. And the Lakers, no doubt, are one of those. Obviously, with LeBron, who he gets along with extremely well from their Team USA games together, Team USA time together. So it should be. I think it's going to be a great matchup.
How do people in Minnesota feel now that you've got X amount of months since the Karl Anthony Towns trade? Mm. How do they feel about the trade? How do they feel what they got back in return? How do they feel of kind of where this season is going on Julius Randle, Donte DiVincenzo? How do they feel about it?
I think there are still mixed opinions, and I don't think they've changed really from the beginning of the season. Generally, fans were surprised by the move. Cat had been with the Wolves for 9 years and set all sorts of team records, and he was the number 1 pick that the Wolves had back in 2015. They built around him, and they got him to the point where he's at right now, and now you're seeing it with New York. So it's tough to see. But I tell you, the wheels for this trade were set in motion when the Wolves acquired Rudy Gobert a couple of years ago. Ant was still on his rookie contract, so that wasn't as much of a factor at the time. But now that Ant's on a Supermax contract, you can't. It's tough to fit in. It's tough to fit in 2 Supermax players or 2 max players, but 3 is a lot. And so the Wolves had to make this move to get some flexibility for the future. They thought that they acquired Donte DiVincenzo and Julius Randle plus a draft pick. Those 2 guys could equal and surpass the numbers that Cat puts up, which if you look at last year's numbers, that would be accurate. And it took a little while to integrate those 2 guys. And now both those guys have been hurt for the last 2-3 weeks now, maybe 4 weeks. And so it's kind of an incomplete is when you step back and look at the trade. And while Cat's gotten off to a great start, I think he missed the game last night with a knee injury. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. So far, it's been great for him in New York. But the one thing Karl has struggled with is postseason success and playoff consistency. You can't afford to have bad games and off nights in the postseason. And Cat has had far too many of those. Now, granted, he was a younger player in 2018 when the Wolves almost got swept by the Rockets. It was 4-1. And even the last couple of years, Cat's had a couple off nights. And that's hurt the team because you can't have your best player having poor nights. So we'll see. I think it's still to be determined if we want to put a letter grade or how to evaluate that trade for the beginning of the season.
Are these guys, you think they're, is the long-term plan Julius Randle and Donte DiVincenzo, or is this kind of, they felt like they had to make a trade for some of the reasons that you mentioned, get as much talent as you can back and then figure it out from there?
I think some of the latter. I think Dante is a part of this team long term. I don't know where Julius Randle is. That's the big question. Like, he's got a player option for next season that he could opt into. I don't know how this latest injury, the groin injury that sidelined him for like a dozen games now, he's going to be out again tonight. I don't know what that does for his, whether or not he picks up that option, what kind of teams might be interested in Julius Randle. So that sort of is a question mark going forward, because that's a big salary number right there. That's sure. He's in the 30 to 35 range, somewhere in there. And so, it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out.
Okay, just real quick on the Western Conference. So we got Lakers, Timberwolves tonight. Kind of talked a little bit about them. What do you? If I told you right now, is it as simple as no, everything's going to run through OKC, or do you have some hesitation there because they are a young team? They have not been to the NBA Finals. Kind of your top 2, top 3 teams in the Western Conference. What are the teams that you're looking at?
Yeah, I still think OKC is the team to beat, basically because of the gap they've got right now over Memphis, Denver, Houston. I do think, even though they've only won one playoff series, so they lost in the second round to Dallas last year, I do think that's given them a little bit of experience for the postseason. And they're going to have some time here. Chet Holmgren is still not – he's not fully integrated yet. He's clearly working his way back. He's not playing in the second of back-to-backs. He doesn't look quite, and this is no fault of Chet, it's just coming back from a major injury. It takes time. And so they're going to have another 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever we got here, for him to get back on the same page. But, they blew the lead against the Timberwolves, which is concerning because of the hugeness of that lead. I mean, it was not only 25 points in the third quarter, it was 24 with 11 minutes to play. Thunder were up 16 with 3:42 left, Alan, and the Wolves finished 16-0. They couldn't get a bucket. The Wolves threw a junk defense at them, as far as doubling Shea, backing into a zone, and nobody else can make a shot. That, I think, around the league, not only for the size of the comeback, but, okay, maybe OKC is not as perfect as we think they are. They don't lose leads like that. That doesn't happen to them. And then, even though they won last night, I think they were in Brooklyn, they gave up a ton of points. They're the number one defense. That's not what they do and how they do it. And so I keep my eye on them just to see if they can kind of right the ship after this loss to the Timberwolves. After that, I just think it's wide open. I really do. Memphis has been Taylor Jenkins, I think, is an underrated coach in this league. But they've only won one playoff series. It was against Minnesota 2-3 years ago now. In the Ja Morant era. And so, as good as they've been, they've only gotten out of the first round once. Houston, the Wolves have I think won 3 of the 4 meetings. Now 2, they went 2-2 against Houston. But I think Houston's got some issues too when it comes to teams that love to run and force turnovers. There are certain things that work in the regular season that don't translate as well in the postseason. Games become slower. You got to be better in the half court. And Houston has an awful half court offense, which I think might be a problem for them going forward. Denver, every time they take someone away from Nikola Jokic, he seems to get better and better. The more they put on his shoulders, the more he seems to be able to handle it. They lose Bruce Brown. They lose Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. It doesn't look like they have much of a bench at the start of the season. Now that's kind of filled out. And Jokic, he's so good that Russell Westbrook looks good again and great again. Like, it's amazing how he makes everybody around him better. Jokic is just he's on another planet right now. And then after that, I think it's wide open. It's the Wolves want to get into that top 6. You talked about the Lakers trying to get into that top 4. Certainly, if they continue on this pace, they're going to be on a good shot for that. But you don't want 4 teams are going to end up in the play-in. There's going to be a team left out that doesn't even make the play-in. I think it's just going to be a wild scoreboard watching final 6 weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay,
final one. Make this one real quick. The Naz Reid piece of this. Some Laker fans, I saw it in the comments. They want to know about Naz Reid. What do you think his future is? And it sounds like he's definitely a player that could be available in the summer.
I mean, who wouldn't want Naz Reid? He's just an undrafted free agent that's worked his way into a guy who's going to opt out of his contract this summer and get paid like a starting power forward or center. He's shown he can play both positions. He's analytically friendly. His shots come at the rim and they come at the 3-point line, and there's not much in between. He can go to work in the paint. We've seen him with a left-handed hook, right-handed hook. He's just developed so nicely, and that's why he's such a fan favorite in Minnesota. We've given away 2 years ago. We gave away a Naz Reid beach towel, right? Thought that was a cool giveaway. That thing has gone viral. Wolves fans take it across the world. They take pictures with the Naz Reid beach towel wherever they are, whether it's in Nepal or in Africa or in Europe, wherever. And then he got a bobblehead this past year. So, I mean, there is no one more beloved amongst Wolves fans than Naz Reid, and he's actually the longest tenured Timberwolf with the trade of Karl Anthony Towns. So he's been there longer than anybody, even Anthony Edwards, because Naz came in the year before. So he's an incredible success story. And he's shown that when he's in the starting lineup for Julius Randle, that he can play against number ones for other teams. He can handle things defensively. It's really a great success story. He's a great guy. And I think the Wolves have every intention of trying to lock him up. So talking about the future, I think Naz Reid's a big part of the Wolves' future.
All right, 7:30 tip tonight, Lakers and Timberwolves. So what time do you got? You guys back to back? You got Utah tomorrow?
Yes.
What time do you get in?
This last week, I'll tell you one thing. The schedule this year has been as jam-packed and as crazy as I've ever seen in 18 years. I know the NBA Cup was put in place last year. They blocked out even more time this year. And what that does is that gave teams that didn't make the NBA Cup, we played 2 games in 10 days. And while that's nice and having some time, that just means that the rest of the schedule is absolutely jam-packed. So the Wolves in the last 5 days have had 3 flights where they've gotten in about beyond 2 o'clock in the morning to the next city. Like, especially when ESPN and the Lakers know this, you're on national TV all the time. They dictate start times. We didn't get home till 4 o'clock in the morning after the Houston game last Friday. Monday night in Oklahoma City, both teams raced to the airport. We actually beat the Thunder up in the air. We beat them to OKC by 5 minutes. We were kind of joking about that after the game, and then played again the next night in OKC. But we didn't get neither team got in there until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh my gosh!
And it takes its toll. We're going to lose an hour tonight on the travel. Getting out of LA is not exactly the quickest. Getting to the airport and getting out of here. So who knows what time am I? 7:30 start, 4, 11, 12, 1. Yeah, I mean, we're not getting there till like 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's going to be a late night. But you know what? Every team goes through it.
Sure.
The other night, both OKC and Minnesota had the exact same travel schedule, so that you're thankful for that. But usually it's not the case. It's usually one team that's been resting for like 2 days, and you come in at 3 o'clock in the morning. But it's crazy. But Chris Finch is cool in the sense that he embraces that stuff. He doesn't bitch and moan about it. It is what it is. So what are you going to do? You going to complain about it, or are you going to embrace it and try to motivate yourself? And the Wolves have kind of always done that. They've been really good on the second of a back-to-back in the Chris Finch era. And that's tough to do in this league.
Horton, great stuff, brother. First off, good to see you.
Good
to catch up with you. A lot of times we just do this on radio, or we do it right before the game would start. Right. So thank you for doing this in the morning. I appreciate the insight, and great seeing you, buddy.
I can see you at the game tonight?
No go for me tonight. No go. I think I'm going to do one of the Lakers or Clippers games. They got the Lakers Clippers Friday and Sunday, so I'm going to probably do one of those 2 games.
At Crypto?
At Crypto.
Okay.
Yeah, they're done with Intuit. They already played their 2 there.
Yep. We only went there once this year. Nice. It's all right.
It's okay?
It's nice.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
okay.
nice.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the wall's really cool. The wall's cool. I mean, that was, I think, was taken from San Diego State. They kind of have a wall with where Kawhi used to play, and the ring of monitors. What do you call that thing? Just the ring of video board. That's basically SoFi, right?
The video board's amazing.
So you're just taking. This is what you do. Like, this is what smart people do. Is they go around and they see what's best in class, and they take this and that and this and that and put it into one. Really smart for Steve Ballmer.
You almost stop avoiding watching the court. You're literally just watching the board.
Yeah, they got to help out the broadcaster spots. I think that's going to get taken care of next year. They jam us up into a pretty small little area there, all TV and radio.
They threw media. They just threw them over on the side. We were kind of the same way.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
Great to see you.
Thank you, buddy. Good seeing you too. Have a good rest of your day.
You got it.
All right. That is Alan Horton right there. He's a good dude. I told you guys would like him. Good dude. Known him for a long time. He was down in San Diego when, man, I am having, my video is unbelievable right now. Oh, I don't know what's going on with the video. Is what it is. Yeah, I've known him for a while, and he is good people. I don't know what's going on in my video, so I'm gonna try to do my best here to kind of just get through the best of this. Okay, so something to keep in mind here. I'm going to have a difficult time highlighting comments here just because of what I just said. Something's going on with the video. When I click on a comment or something like that, I lose my video on here. So just something to keep in mind as we go through the rest of the show. But Horton is a good dude. He's got a great insight, and hopefully that helped a little bit kind of preview Lakers and the Timberwolves. The other thing, to kind of make mention of is I also wanted his perspective because it was Luka and the Mavs last year that had to go through Minnesota to get to the NBA Finals. So, obviously, kind of gives us a little bit of taste of what Luka could potentially do once we get to the postseason as well. All right, I'm going to get to a couple of these supers here real quick because I always feel like I got to make sure, obviously, I do if people are nice enough to throw some dough here. Now, if you lose me, who cares? R.I.P. Gene Hackman from Hoosiers and Royal Tenenbaums. R.I.P. I didn't know Gene Hackman passed away. So definitely R.I.P. there. Chuck Nola. After the trade was announced, there was no need to pretend to not know about it. I think that's what AD was pissed about. Chuck Nola, thank you for the super. Some kind of wonderful. Thank you for the super. Yeah, this goes back to our conversation we're having about Anthony Davis. And the conversation specifically about, the Lakers obviously keeping this such a secret. I think whatever happens behind the scenes, we're never going to probably know the full story, even though I feel like we got the story. Nico Harrison reached out to, Rob Pelinka. Lakers were in Dallas. They grabbed a cup of coffee, and it's kind of the conversation started. Would Anthony Davis be available? Would Luka be available? However that all kind of went down. But I have no problem with AD giving his perspective, maybe disagreeing with the idea and the concept, maybe not liking how it went down. That's okay. He's got every right to do that as well. I mean, it's AD. AD is not, just some random player that has had, no juice in the league. Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis. All right, I'm going to read a couple of these off Instagram. Good move. AD was tough for us when he played. I know last couple of seasons, he'd been a lot healthier and available, but we as Laker fans shouldn't have to hold our breath every game. Thank you for that one on Instagram. Maybe wanted to avoid the weirdness of the situation. There's another one on Instagram. Let's see what else we got here. AD looked like he handled it much better than Luka at the beginning. Yeah, I think the real shock was Luka. I mean, it's kind of funny. I don't think Luka started becoming Luka again until the game against Denver. That was probably the first game where you're like, hey, Luka looks like he's okay. Luka looks like he's processed it, is probably the better way to put it. Okay, I got a couple other things I want to get into here real quick. Some things I'll probably save till tomorrow because I feel like I'm going to be rushing them. But there was something to keep in mind here real quick. And I mentioned this a bit ago when I was doing the show on Monday with Chris McGee with Geeter. Lakers are positioned right now, they're top 5 in the Western Conference. Do you know the last time, I had to look at this, and Geeter had mentioned it to me, but I'm like, no, that can't be right. That can't be true. Last time Lakers had home court in the playoffs, last time the Lakers had home court in the first round of the playoffs, which really means you had home court in any playoff series. Yeah, how long ago that was? All right, 2024, they were a 7th seed. 2023, they were a 7th seed. 2022, they didn't make the playoffs. 2021, they were a 7th seed. 2020, they were a 1 seed, but bubble year, so nobody's at home. So nobody had home court advantage. They don't make the playoffs 2019, 2018, 2017, 2016, 2015, 2014. They don't make the playoffs for 6 straight years, right? 2013, Lakers were a 7th seed. You got to go all the way back to 2012 is the last time the Lakers had home court advantage in the first round. You got to go all the way back to 2012. So that's how significant some of this stuff is right now for the Lakers as far as just getting home court in the first round. If you pay attention to the standings, right? If you're sitting back and you're saying to yourself, hey, I think starting the year, most of the conversation was like, can you just avoid the play-in tournament? But here they are. They got a chance. They're 14 games over 500. They're right in the mix with all these teams. They could be a 2 seed. They could be a 3 seed. They could be a 5 seed. I think these next couple of weeks will really dictate if they can be further than 5. You go on a little bit of a losing streak here, then other teams can start creeping in. But how about that? Lakers are playing for something that they haven't done since 2012, which is have a first-round series at home from Crypto.com Arena. That's so crazy. Think about all the different players that were on this Lakers roster back in 2012. That's how long it's been since they've had home court advantage in the first round. All right, let's see. Here's, I'm going to read a couple of the comments here. Can't highlight them, so just adds up. Simply not being in the play-in is a win, and everything else we do in the playoffs is gravy. I think it depends, because if you told me Lakers are a 4 seed and they got Houston in the first round and you got Luka and LeBron and you got home court advantage in the first round, I don't know if it's gravy. I think then it starts becoming like, all right, you better win this first round series. You need to win this first round series. So I think it depends what happens here over the course of the rest of the regular season, where they're positioned when the dust settles. If it was Denver Lakers in the first round and it was the 4-5 matchup and Denver had home court and Lakers lost in 6 or 7 games, then I think maybe it's more understandable. But I think if you got Houston first round, especially if you got home court, a lot of people are going to be saying, yeah, Lakers should be winning that series with Luka and Bron. Obviously, health is going to be everything, and we take it from there. Kevin Durant, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Kevin Durant was on, I got a couple NBA stories I want to get into real quick. And Kevin Durant was on Draymond Green's podcast with Baron Davis a couple days ago. And KD was talking a little bit about, I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. We'll talk a little NBA. I wanted to play the audio, but because I was having some issues, I'm not going to try it. KD was talking a little bit about, the trade kind of came up that all of a sudden the Phoenix Suns were looking to potentially trade him before the trade deadline. And KD was basically saying like it didn't make any sense. By the way, Phoenix isn't going anywhere. I saw yesterday there's a 27% chance they'll make the play-in tournament, and there's a 4% chance they'll make the playoffs. The Suns with Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. What a complete embarrassment in Phoenix. But KD was basically saying it didn't make sense to trade him. I think contractually it didn't make sense to trade him. But come off season, all right, we'll figure it out from there. And he kind of, admitted, hey, a business is a business and everything else. I heard Brian Windhorst say yesterday, they're going to trade him, and he knows that. I think everybody's intentions are crystal clear here. So I will just say this about Kevin Durant. Guy's going to be on a new squad next year, period. Period. Kevin Durant is going to be on a new squad next season. He's going to be playing somewhere else. So I think get ready for that, because that will be his, let's see here, OKC, Golden State, Brooklyn, Phoenix. It'll be his 15th team that he plays for. KD going to go to the Thunder. Watch. Be full circle, I'll tell you that. And you know what? If there's a team that could go get him, and if, depending on what happens this year, if there's a missing piece, be interesting. You've heard KD rumors around. I've heard Dallas. I've heard Houston. We'll see about what Oklahoma City Thunder do and everything else. So we'll see what happens. But I thought that was very, very interesting. Okay, I got another story that I want to share here real quick. Paul George is this was on his podcast, but also NBA Central. A lot of these Twitter handles sometimes just really kind of clean things up and make things very easy for everybody. Breaking: Paul George has taken a break from podcasting to focus on a championship. I want to let the Podcast P family know that after today's episode with Dwight, I plan to take a break from the pod just to focus on getting my body right, getting mentally right, and, help the squad make a push towards our goal to finish the season out, give ourselves a chance to be in contention to compete for a championship. Okay, a couple things here real quick. I don't know if Paul George knows what team he plays for. Paul George plays for the 20-38 Philadelphia 76ers, who, my friends, have lost 9 games in a row and are 1-9 on the season. And the best player on their team, or who's supposed to be the best player on their team, is trying to figure out what to do. And I'm talking about Joel Embiid in regards to his future and his injury problems that he's had dealing with his knee. I'm going to give some breaking news here to Paul George. And I get it. By the way, it's a bad look. I think for some of these people, I don't think I really, really care if somebody's doing a podcast during the season. So what does it mean? It means if they play basketball, then they can't do anything outside of basketball. Like what if he has a business that he runs outside of basketball? So is he not supposed to pay attention to the business that he runs or whatever it is, right? So I don't know if the podcast, I get that it might be a bad look. I understand that portion of it. But I don't know if that's affecting Paul George and his play. The problem is Philly sucks. And Paul George, I want to look at Paul George's stats here real quick, because they signed him for 200 and change, and Paul George this year is averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. That's not worth 200 and change. I understand why he's stopping the podcast, but I also know that because he's stopping the podcast, that's not exactly going to all of a sudden turn Philly's season around. They are awful. Two most disappointing teams in the NBA this year by far, Philly and Phoenix. So those are the two teams that I just mentioned. One of them is got one player that's probably going to be traded in the offseason, and then the Paul George thing that I'm talking about as well. All right, Slee, can we fleece Philly in the offseason for some scraps? Another thing, I don't know, but I know this. Philly's also dealing with something. I think they got this top 6 protected pick. And if it falls out of the top 6, this is their first rounder this year. Guess where it goes? Think about Philly for a quick second, everything that's going on. And then they have a top 6 protected pick. If it's out of the top 6, guess where that pick goes? Guess which team? I'm going to let you guys answer that question. What team gets the Philadelphia 76ers pick this 2025 draft if it's out of the top 6? Why don't you guys go ahead and guess? You want to talk about a team that's been playing chess when everyone else has been playing checkers. Yes, you guys are right. The Oklahoma City Thunder. OKC. Oh my God. How many picks do these guys have? How many picks do they have? That honestly is unbelievable when I saw that. Unbelievable when I saw that. I'm like, this can't be right. What do you mean they have another pick? They don't need any more picks. That's just unbelievable. So they're also trying to be bad. I mean, at this point, you might as well be bad, but they're also trying to be bad for the reasons that I'm talking about here. I mean, just unbelievable. Guys, I'm going to throw something in here on the chat real quick because I know a lot of people that are on here are members. Please consider being a member, an MVP member of the channel. Would love to have as many MVP members as possible. And we got a lot. We started off already with a great amount. It's a great way to support the channel. It's $3 a month. I would love to get as many members as possible. I put a link there if you guys would like it. At the very least, if you can be a subscriber, would greatly appreciate that. OKC waiting on Philly's pick. Are you kidding me? Okay, last thing I want to get into, and then we're going to call it a day today. This one's going to be an NFL story here real quick. The NFL considering changes to the regular season overtime rules. By the way, I apologize. I can't highlight your comments here, but when you're doing a live show, you just got to roll with the punches. So I got to roll with the punches on this one. Okay, real quick here. It's time to rethink the overtime rules. This is league executive Troy Vincent said. They are looking, there's too much of an advantage with the coin toss. Receiving teams won 56.8% of the games in overtime. So they're trying to find a way to kind of make this more even. Current rules give both teams an opportunity to possess the ball in overtime unless a touchdown is scored on the first possession. That changes in the playoffs. If it's in the playoffs, both teams get the ball no matter what, even if the other team scores a touchdown. This is something that they've changed, I think, since 2022. Making the overtime rules the same in the regular season is the possible solution, along with extending the period to 15 minutes. Yeah, I never really understood why they want to give one team such an advantage for flipping the coin. I hope they end up doing this, and then whatever happens from there happens from there. I will give the NFL credit. They are there's a lot of sports now. I'll put baseball in this category as well. It's very easy for a lot of these teams to just, or a lot of these sports to stay very baseball, right? It's like, well, it's baseball. We don't make any changes. Okay, now they're all of a sudden adapting, and I think it's been good for the sport. NFL adapting. I think it's been good for the sport. NBA trying to adapt. I think they're overcorrecting sometimes. I think they do have a lot of issues that they have with their sport, but that I think has to do more with player issues and maybe effort issues and everything like that. But it looks like the NFL could potentially make a change to overtime. I'm completely okay with that and prefer they do that as well. All right, my people, I think that's all we got for tonight, or I think that's all we got for today. I'm back on tonight, by the way. So couple quick shout outs here. Thank you to Alan Horton for taking the time and joining the show, hanging out here on our YouTube show, Instagram, X, everybody as well. So thank you for him for coming on. Lakers got the Minnesota Timberwolves tonight. If you want a little bit more of a detailed breakdown of tonight's game, Sammy Long's got the preview video that's up right now. It's about maybe 12, 13 minutes long. So go feel free to listen to that. I'll be back on tonight after the Lakers take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. We'll do the post-game show. So looking forward to having everybody be a part of the show a little bit later tonight. Thank you for hanging out on the show. What did we do? $113 here, $114, something like that. Appreciate everybody hanging out for the show this morning. Subscribe to the channel. Be a member if you'd like to be a member. And I will see you guys this evening. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. And shout out to everybody who's here for episode number 101. Thank you, everybody.